cell phone number or even an email address. Give me your mail address and I will send you it, with what it is referring to remaining unclear.
So you can see, first of all, it says write down your cell phone number. When you fold it open, ich kann dir eine Handynummer geben oder sogar eine E-Mail-Adresse. Gib mir eine Mailadresse und ich sende es dir. So it says somewhere along the lines, I can give you a cell phone number or even an email address. Give me an email address and I'll send it to you. So yeah, that was just hanging on this tree here, on this branch, this piece of paper. I'm gonna put it back.
He ended up writing his number on the note and putting it back on the stick. Right next to the note were a bunch of bras lined up on a fallen tree branch with no explanation.
So, yeah, that's a bunch of bras. In total, 1, 2, 3, 4, behind there, 5, 6. There are more.
These items couldn't have been left there for more than a few days, as they were discovered on the 6th of August, and the last rainfall was 3 days earlier, yet the piece of paper showed no signs of ever having gotten wet. Among some of the other things that the friends found at the scene were 2 packages of condoms and a pot that was seemingly used for a fire. The friends returned the next day on the 7th, and the note where he wrote down his number was gone. A few days later, he got a text from an unknown number just saying hi. He answered saying, "Hi, who is this?" The number then replied his address, and at this point he blocked the number. Whatever or whoever this little scene was meant for remains a mystery. This following footage, posted online by Taylor Vasquez, documents her disturbing findings when also using Randonautica. She downloaded the app and generated a location not far from her house. The location turns out to be an abandoned creek-looking area.
So I keep seeing that Randonaut thing all over TikTok and I really want to try it out. So I just downloaded the app and I found a location that's like 1.5 miles by my house. So I'm going to go check it out and see if I can see.
Nothing seems out of the ordinary at first, and it seems like a typical random location the app could lead somebody to, until she finds a series of disturbing drawings, seemingly done by a child.
Pretty creepy. I'll go see what that is. Okay, so I just opened up one of the photos and it's whatever the fuck that is. Then we have these random 3. This one's a "It's Your Birthday" with the snowman with, I don't know. And these 2 I just put together. It's like, play with me. Alright, I think it was just my imagination. I think I'm just hearing shit.
As she's analyzing the drawings, she suddenly hears an unsettling sound.
Play with me.
It sounds like the voice of a young child, but the video cuts here. On a later date, Taylor returns to the creek, but this time there are new drawings that weren't there last time. According to her, these ones being even creepier than the previous series of drawings, with one of the drawings being a sigil of Baphomet. As she's distracted by the drawings, the voice of a child can once again be heard in the background.
If they have messages on them, because then, like, those look like symbols.
At first she doesn't seem to hear it, but once she does, she makes a dash for it and the video cuts.
I don't really see anything else.
After uploading the video to TikTok, a viewer pointed out what appears to be the face of a young child peering from behind a tree.
No one was with me, and tell me if you guys think that looks like a ghost child, because I don't know.
Taylor uploads another video analyzing a journal she picked up from the creek, with each page revealing another unsettling message. Taylor returns to the creek one last time, and finds not only a Ouija board made out of a piece of cardboard, but also a large knife sitting next to it. This was the last time Taylor dared to return to the creek, and so whatever was going on here will remain a mystery. As with many things posted on the internet, there's no 100% proof that this whole series of videos weren't staged. However, there were certain aspects of the videos that viewers feel make them feel more realistic, mainly the weathered-looking pieces of paper that contain the drawings, along with the disturbing image of the child's face in the video. Whether or not this was genuine is really up to the viewer to decide. This story was sent by viewer Davey S. One night as she was scrolling through TikTok, she came across a story about a few teenagers who were using Randonautica, and after following the set of coordinates they were given, reached a secluded beach area where they saw a suitcase washed up that contained something disturbing. But I'll talk more about that in a bit. Davy and her roommate Ash saw this and were determined to make their own unsettling discovery on the app. They invited 2 other friends to join them, and when they all got together, they gathered in Davy's room and figured out how to use the app. They set a radius around their current location, 29 kilometers, or around 18 to 19 miles. After hitting the button to get the location, a screen popped up telling them to set their intentions for what they want to learn and experience during the outing. The word they inputted was spooky. The location the app gave was eerily close to her house. Davy and her friends live in a rural part of Alabama on Lookout Mountain, and at the bottom of the mountain is an abandoned steel plant among a few other abandoned buildings in a lower income neighborhood. The location it gave the group of friends was 3 streets away from them. The location was on a very long road that led on for miles and miles without any other intersecting streets. The friends gathered into Davy's car with her friend Misa in the passenger seat and her friends Ash and Beck sitting in the back seat. It didn't take long for the girls to get to the street, and as Davy was about to turn left, she looked at the street sign Owl's Hollow Road. Davy's friends went from loud and excited to instantly quiet as she said, "We're here." Davy continued driving down this dark road surrounded by trees and no street lamps. It was pitch black at around 1 a.m., so the group was definitely feeling the creepiness factor kicking in. As they approached the destination, Davy pulled to the side of the road. At this point, all 3 of Davy's friends were becoming apprehensive about the whole thing, as they saw a very dark trail that led into the woods. The 4 friends sat in the car for a few minutes and laughed nervously about whether they should go through with this or not, but they all felt uneasy. The group started to agree that it felt like they were being watched. Despite being in a locked car, they felt vulnerable being alone with just a dying phone and a switchblade, so they all agreed to leave, and they pulled off further down the road. They kept driving, exploring this narrow road, and there was nothing but trees and the occasional street lamp. Davy was getting tired and decided to just do a 3-point turn on the very narrow road and go back home. There was a sense of relief, until the group realized they had to pass the trail again. As they passed it, Davy looked in her rearview mirror and saw what seemed to be a hooded male figure standing in front of the trail. She pressed the gas even harder, but she didn't tell her friends what she saw because she didn't want to scare them. The friends briefly talked about that night before going to sleep around 2 a.m. The next morning, Beck went home and Davy took Ash to work. Misa decided to hang out with Davy for a little longer before she had to be home in a few hours. They discussed going back to the trail since it was daylight and they felt a bit more comfortable. They made their way back to the trail and got out of the car, this time with keys and phone in one hand and pocket knife in the other. As they walked up the trail, they realized it led uphill, something they didn't notice the night before because it was so dark. They started to feel like something was off, like they were being watched again. They made it to the top of the trail, which led to a clearing, almost like a dump site as she described it. There were tires, fast food garbage, household items, etc. The 2 started looking around some more and came across a bunch of mattresses scattered throughout the clearing. The disturbing part was the mattresses were made beds. Pillows, blankets, sheets, all that you'd expect on a made bed. The sight was so unsettling that the 2 friends agreed to leave. They hurried back downhill towards the car, and about halfway, Misa stopped in front of Davy and pointed into the woods and said, "What is that?" as she spotted a red cooler in a small ditch, something they hadn't seen on the way uphill. They stepped down into the ditch to examine it, and as they walked over to it, all the 2 friends could smell was the stench of something rotting. Upon looking around the surrounding area, she spotted a dead cat carcass lying a few meters away. Avoiding getting too close to the dead carcass, she grabbed a big stick and tilted the cooler upright, which had a bit of weight to it, making it difficult. Something could be heard sloshing around inside of it like it was full of ice. She shoved the stick into the top of it and opened it slightly, and when it opened, a gust of hot, moist, putrid air hit Davy in the face. Bugs and maggots immediately started coming out of the cooler, along with a horrid smell of decaying overpowering the smell of the cat. Upon opening it a little more, what she saw was a wad of wet, matted black hair. Davy ran back to Misa and yelled to get in the car. The 2 sped down the road as Misa frantically asked Davy what was in the cooler, but she couldn't open her mouth in fear of puking. After driving a little ways up the road, hoping to find a driveway to assist in turning around, Davy eventually gave up and did another really tight 3-point turn on the narrow road, but the 2 would have to pass the trail one more time. As they did, Davy noticed some pieces of wood in the road that had not been there before. She looked around and saw the same hooded male figure from the night before, standing in the woods. She drove her car over the pieces of wood, damaging the bottom of her front bumper, and then sped off back home. She and her friend returned to the trail one more time since this incident to record the trail, which was the footage you've been seeing. Davy has deleted the Randonautica app and not used it since. Earlier I had mentioned that there was a video that inspired Davy and her friends to try the app themselves. That video was filmed by a couple TikTok users, who each posted their own angles of the video.
Guys, we found a suitcase at the beach.
Gabby, go. I'll hold your stuff. I don't know.
Bro. Wait, open it.
Like, we're gonna find nothing.
Open it.
It was sweet.
It stinks, y'all.
It washed out. It's sweet.
Oh. Oh. Okay, so she's calling the police so we can see if it's actually a dead body or it's just food.
Found a suitcase on the in Alpine Beach. And
Yeah, here's the crime scene.
so we just found this suitcase and we're gonna get it. Okay, so they're like opening it up with the sticks because we don't want to. Guys, there's a bag. There's a bag, like a black bag in there.
The Randonautica app generated a location that led them to a rocky breakwall below a jetty at the shore of Alki Beach in West Seattle, when they found a mysterious black suitcase washed up on a bunch of rocks under the bridge. As they approached the suitcase, they realized there was a foul odor emitting from the suitcase, and the contents of the suitcase may be more disturbing than they had initially thought. The teens called the police, but with Seattle police response times being notoriously slow, the police took 3 to 4 hours to show up. And by that time, the tide had risen enough to where the suitcase had washed away. It took a scuba team to retrieve the suitcase and its contents. The contents were indeed quite disturbing. The remains of a couple, Jessica Lewis, who was 35, and Austin Wenner, who was 27, were found inside of the black garbage bag inside the suitcase. Their murderer was their landlord, Michael Dudley, who the pair had previously argued with regarding their rent payments. It was reported by neighbors that on the night of the pair's murder, a male voice could be heard screaming, "Please don't do this, just let me leave," before gunshots were fired, and this was reportedly 10 days before the suitcase was found. The videos had eventually been taken down by the teens. With so many people using an app that's designed to send you to randomly generated places, it's inevitable that sometimes people are going to run into some horrific things that they were not supposed to find. So if you do use the app or anything like it, it's best to just stay alert to your surroundings.